Hey friends, welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today I want to give you some information that might be helpful if you're looking at launching a new website or even maintaining your existing one. So stay tuned. This is something you're going to want to know. Hi, I'm Christie Browning, the owner of Content by Request, an on-demand design and marketing firm that specializes in helping small businesses and nonprofits project their mission and their message to the masses. At Content by Request, you request it, we create it. Just a couple of weeks ago, I had to get a new cell phone. Of course, one of the first things that has to happen when you get a new phone is you have to upload it with all of your favorite apps. Of course, coming out of the box, a cell phone only has some of the basic things that we would normally use our phone for, like making a phone call. Who even makes phone calls on their cell phones anymore? I needed to download a host of apps on my phone to get it back to do all the things that I wanted it to do with my old phone. So maybe that's social media apps, maybe it's apps that helps me manage my finances, track mileage, you name it. I was downloading it, especially those really fun phone games. Let's face it, we all have one of those guilty pleasures. But our phone has all these different apps that exist. And when we're looking for apps, we're looking for the ones that do the things that we want, that work with the phone that we have and the operating system that we have on our phone. Well, in a lot of cases, your website is actually doing the same thing. Your website has all of these different pieces of the puzzle that are working behind the scenes so that your website can function the way you want it. There's special technology that's running video behind the scenes on your website. If you have a form that someone can complete and submit, that's a whole different piece of technology. If you have a photo gallery or even just a blog area, all of those little pieces of your website are coming from different kinds of, we'll call them apps. If you're familiar with a WordPress website, you know that they use what's called plugins, which is kind of like apps in WordPress language, meaning you're looking for the apps that function with your web design, with your version of WordPress, and you're wanting to make sure that it functions and does the job you really want it to do. But there's a couple of things that you need to keep in mind when you're looking at different plugins. One, you need to understand that those all work individually. Much like the apps that you have on your smartphone, those apps need to be updated every once in a while. You know, we get those notifications on our smartphone when an app needs to be updated. Then it's up to us to run the update. Unfortunately, my Samsung Galaxy doesn't naturally or automatically do those third-party app updates for me. I have to go in there and say, yep, let's run these updates. The same works for your website. And those plugins are ran, created, manufactured, and maintained by third-party people that are allowing those plugins to be on your site. And so keeping those maintained is super critical. Unfortunately, sometimes those upgrades and updates don't always function with the site version that you're working on, and that can cause a little bit of a technical issue. One of the biggest things you'll want to do is to make sure that you're watching your dashboard, the back end part of your website, for those updates as they need to be maintained. Now, what happens if you don't maintain those? Well, you can start to experience a little bit of a decline in the use of your site. Forms may no longer work or submit, links may be broken, and maybe even pages on your site are non-existent. That can send a little bit of a panic in you when you're thinking that your site's working just fine. Unfortunately, most websites are not set it and forget it. They do need a little bit of maintenance. But let me give you a couple of things to keep in mind if you're thinking that you need a little more hassle-free type of WordPress option, and that is to not use WordPress at all. Here at Content by Request, we are big fans of Squarespace. And now maybe you caught their Super Bowl ad and caught it last year as well. They're really starting to become more widely known and really popular. However, Squarespace has been around for about a decade or more, and it has been the platform of choice for us and our clients for about as long as that. The thing I love most about Squarespace is it is a complete content management system. What that means is that there's all these moving pieces to our website, no matter what platform you're on. But Squarespace allows for those moving parts to be maintained and overseen, and the maintenance applied to them through Squarespace, meaning you don't have to watch all of those. In fact, when you go into the dashboard of your Squarespace site, all of those different plugins look like Squarespace items. They don't even look like third-party pieces. Now, Squarespace may be creating some of those things, and they may actually be utilizing some third-party as well. But for you, the end user, it all looks like it comes from the same Squarespace family. That means you can be sure that your site is running on the most up-to-date version with the best connection between that plugin and your actual site. That alleviates that hassle of having to babysit your website. More times than not, we are called for people who need help and their websites need rescued because that maintenance hasn't been ongoing. And that means sometimes that we have to recreate a lot of stuff, which can be kind of costly for you. So if you're looking for another option and a way to possibly consider a little bit less ongoing maintenance for your site, consider the platform your website is hosted on. If you're launching a new website, be sure to ask your site developer, how is the site going to be maintained in the future? Will it have backups? Will I have to babysit these plugins? Do I need to get in here every day, every week, once a month, once a quarter? What does that need to look like? What is the ongoing maintenance for me after the site is launched? If you're needing to do a website refresh, then this is a good time to consider if the plugins you're using really serve you best or not. You may decide that you need something totally different. You may be looking to upgrade your site to a platform that really serves you best. In that case, you may want to consider something like Squarespace. We're always here to help give you our best advice on the platform that is going to serve you for the better future. Depending on what your end result is and where you're wanting to go, those platforms may not always look the same. Just like we may all choose different smartphones and we may all choose different apps to put on those smartphones, website platforms are not all created equal and they don't fit everyone's solutions. So when you're looking at a website, whether to create a new one or maintain it, have a real discussion with your designer or your developer to ask them, what does the future look like for the site? How do I get help if the site by chance needs some maintenance? If I want to make updates or changes of my own, is that possible? And how do I do that? And lastly, what you want to know is if something should happen to them, the designer, the developer, who is going to be in control of that site to help you in the future? More times than not, when people contact our office because they want to do some changes to their site or they're needing to host it in a different fashion, it's because the person that they were existing with in the past has either gone out of business or retired or for whatever reason is no longer there to provide for their needs. If that's the case, we do need to have a backup, and it's good to ask what that backup might look like as you're getting started in the beginning. If you start with your website and you start looking towards the future and you design with the end in mind, you're going to have a lot more success in what your site can do for you. Keep in mind your availability to maintain the site and your skill. Maybe with a little bit of training, there is some maintenance that you can do on your own, or maybe it's something that you have a team member in your office that can handle. On a larger scale, who do you call? Who has access to the site? How do we update things? How do we change our domains? How do we renew our service fees so our sites don't go down? These are all really critical questions that sometimes go unanswered when we're looking at web design and we get caught up in the pretty pictures we may use or the fun graphics we may create or visual elements we put in the site. All of that is really important too. And we want your site to look the best. But more importantly, we want it to be something that lasts and that serves you for the foreseeable future. So ask those questions. Don't be afraid to ask your designer or developer to explain in detail and in common language what's going to happen to your site. We know as developers and designers that you don't always speak the same language we do. You may not know how to ask exactly the technical questions that we may be expected to know or discuss, but we should be able to communicate that to you so that you feel comfortable with what your site is really all about and how it works. Here at Content by Request, it is always our goal for you to be empowered by your technology, your site, your social media, your marketing. We never want you to feel held captive by that simply because you don't know how it works or you don't know where to go to make it work. We want you to feel in control of what your future looks like and all the digital platforms that you may show up in. Remember, at Content by Request, if you want to request it, we want to create it. And we're here to help you get your message and mission to the masses.